Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about Digimon Adventures Season 2, or O2 as some people like to call it. So this came out in 2000 and ended in 2001. It is a complete direct sequel to that of season 1. And I remember when this came out, I was like in high school. I think it was like my senior year. I was really excited to have more Digimon because I loved the first season. And so, I did not watch the movie just yet. I didn't watch the movie until probably after the first arc of like the season. And so I had no idea they slightly changed up the cast. When I found that out watching this show, man, I was devastated. I'm like, no, give me my tie, give me my Sora, give me my Izzy, give me my Mimi and my Joe and everybody else. I do not care for these other kids. But I did not know at that time, in most Japanese animes and live action shows, when they get like a different season, they tend to change up the cast or the title or the theme or something like that. I actually didn't find that out until I was watching the behind the scenes stuff on the Kill Bill DVD. And so, like, I was devastated. But a miracle happened. The O1 cast appeared frequently throughout the season, but it just wasn't the same. They had truly passed the torch. And you know what? If you're going to pass the torch, but also keep something, the originals, this was probably the best way to probably do it. Another good example is probably Power Rangers Turbo, when the original cast left and they hand selected the new characters and stuff. That was a great way because, at least the original ones or the veteran ones, passed the torch to who they wanted to take up the mantle and stuff. Here, it was just kind of thrust upon us. But thankfully, the original cast came back. And that's kind of a smart way to do it. Like, they're not there all the time. They're there frequently helping out, and they kind of have their own story arcs. But the new cast are the main new people and stuff. Personally, for me, I don't like the new characters. Like the 3 new characters, Davis, Yoli, and Cody, I don't really like them. They just come off as to me. Ken is a little bit more better. And see, the reason why Ken is a little bit more better, even though he was originally a villain, is because, okay, here's the thing about this season. There's a lot to unpack with this season. I'm going to try my extreme best not to go over an hour, because there's just so much to unpack with this season of like 50 or 51 episodes or so. This season is extremely confusing at times. And I mean, it's confusing. And it's been confusing for the past 20-something years until Digimon Tri came out, and they kind of filled in the gaps and the plot holes of both season 1 and season 2, while also creating more plot holes and stuff. But they at least did fill in some of the blanks, so that was appreciated. But this season is extremely confusing, man. Like, and I actually forgot my train of thought right before I got to this point about unpacking this season. So what was I saying? The new cast. Now I remember Ken. The reason why I like Ken a little bit more than the other 3 is because he's the only one with true character development. See, the same people who created season 1 created this season. And so, of course, because this season had to be different from the first, they just went all out. Everything, what we know and love is still the same, just tweaked a bit differently. And that makes sense. You gotta keep it fresh. But one of the things they forgot to do is add depth, meaning, and character development. That's one reason why season one will always be my favorite, and the cast will always be my favorite, because those kids really went through it when they was in the digital world. And they had to discover who they were as a person and who they were as a hero. Here, on the other hand, is not really like that. Ken, for the most part, and this is weird, the heroes don't really have character development. They just have character traits and just like a teeny bit of character development. It's actually the villains that actually are more compelling and have more of an emotional story and have character development. That is something completely different from the original, and I can respect that, but also dislike it at the same time. I can respect it because it's new and different, but I can dislike it because I'd rather see the main heroes have some growth and development. And Ken, the original villain turned anti-hero for a short while and then a hero, has the biggest story arc of them all. But they couldn't go there, or at least the English dub didn't want to go there. I don't know so much about the Japanese dub. I do know both versions of Japanese and English dub are different. And so, like, his whole character arc and development is not real in the sense. Like, they had to do the sympathetic thing and just say, oh, well, you know what? He had a dark spore in him the entire time, and that's what caused him to do all this stuff. And it's like, what? No, man, don't do that. He had good growth and everything. Like, ugh. And so this season is not my favorite. I love it. I like it. I have a lot of fun with it, but it's not my favorite. It's not even my second favorite. It used to be my second favorite until I watched Digimon Frontier, the one everybody hates. But I actually like Digimon Frontier, the 4th season, because it goes back to the beginning of season 1 and just repurpose it and everything. Like, season 1's about a group of kids in the digital world and they have to survive on their own. And that's what season 4 is about. And that's what I really like about season 1. You had 8 kids, originally 7, who had to navigate throughout the digital world with their digital partners and figure stuff out and learn to survive. It was survival of the fittest. In season 2, everything is just given to them. Everything is explained to them. Everything is provided for them. And not only that, but this season, they do travel to the digital world, but they go back and forth from the digital world to the real world constantly. So they're not stranded there like the first season cast. Again, I can respect it, but I also dislike it, because that was part of the fun of season 1. And so not only that, but now come new rules and everything and new devices. And because the digital world has like grown since season 1, I'm not exactly sure how many years have passed. Now, I do know from the end of season 1 to season 2, story wise, it's been 3 years, they say, but sometimes they say 4 and then they go back to saying 3 again. The English dub is so freaking confusing. My God, my God, my God. It's like they contradict themselves all the time and they seem to forget things that happened in season 1 and all this other crap. And it's just kind of, and it's weird. They'll say one thing in one episode, and then a few minutes later, they will contradict themselves. And then the next episode, they will say something that would be like, well, hold up. Don't you remember what happened in the last episode? Why are you going to say that for? And so it's like that a lot this season. And it drives me nuts. There are so many plot holes in this season. It's not even funny. And there are just so many things that are just unexplained, and then they are explained. And then when they are explained to you, it's just kind of like, wait, what? That don't make no sense from season one. And that doesn't even make sense on a fictional level or when you watch this entire series and stuff. And when Izzy explains things this season, he doesn't sound like smart Izzy from season one who's shooting out some logic. He sounds more like the writers coming up with their own BS logic to try to explain things, but it don't make no freaking sense. Then there is the whole debate of what exactly is a digital world? Is it data? Is it magic? In the first season, it felt very much like data. And you had specks of magic here and there, depending on what it was about, but it really was nothing more but data. Here, it kind of feels a little bit more magical and stuff, which kind of throws me off. And so, like, I'm trying to think. Something else. Okay, I said plot holes, characters. I can't stand the new characters. The story arcs are a mixed bag for me. The first story arc, the first act, is really good with the Digimon Emperor. Like, that's just like, I'll give that anywhere between like an 8 out of 10, right? Or maybe a 9 out of 10. Like, it's just that fun to watch. Then you get into the second arc that has to do with our Aromon, I can't say it, Mummymon and Arikinimon, and the whole like turning control spirals into Digimon. That whole story arc is really boring. Like, I do not care for that at all. And so, like, but the creation of Dark War Greymon is pretty cool. But once again, it feels rushed. Then you get like the third arc, which is the Owanawa man, I think that's his name. And him wanting to go to the digital world and then finding out who the main boss villain is of the entire series. And that also gives us the world tour. And I like that story arc a bit more than the second story arc, but it also is a bit weird and a little bit confusing. But overall, it's a nice story arc, and I do like the world tour. Like, that was just fun. Like, come on, that was just fun. It reminded me of Gargoyles when they did their world tour type thing. It was a nice way to deviate from the main plot, because the main plot was getting boring at this time. And finding out about the whole new Digi-Destins all around the world, and which I appreciate and I respect, but I also don't like because it's a little bit more confusing. Mainly because it's kind of like, well, what the heck were they doing this entire time? Especially when the digital world and the real world was in danger. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the heck have they been doing? And there's more things that just aren't explained. And one of the main reasons why this season is so jarring, so perplexing, is so baffling is because it feels like there were too many cooks in the kitchen. It literally, and then there's the whole Daymond story arc that went absolutely nowhere. And of course, the 13th episode. The whole dark dimension, dark ocean, Kari transporting to the beach episode, which is the most frustrating episode ever. It ends on a cliffhanger, and you think the next episode they're gonna talk more about it, and then they don't. Then they have to vaguely talk about stuff and talk about it through the rest of the season, but you never get to find out who that big bad guy is. But back to too many cooks in the kitchen. They're just way too many. It seems like all the writers wanted to do separate story arcs that felt like they were going to be full seasons or a full story arc, but didn't have enough time to do it. So they just crammed it into like a couple of episodes. The first season did the same thing, But they handled it way better to where each story arc kind of complements the other one. You had the Devimon thing and the Black Gears and the Digidestin trying to discover what's all going on. Then the second story arc, you get your new bad guy, Edamon, and they're trying to find their tax and crest because every threat is getting bigger and bigger. Then they go home with the whole Myodismon thing, trying to find the eighth child because the world is still unbalanced, only to go back to find out so many years have passed and the digital world looks like crap because it's basically been destroyed while they've been gone, and they have to defeat the Dark Masters. It's like the whole thing is that they encounter one big bad and then the next one and then the next one who's more powerful than the next and everything, as they are prophesized to set balance to both worlds. Here, on the other hand, nothing really complements each other all that well. It just feels like one big conglomerate like story arc that's cut up with villains or like plots that just are boring and kind of irritating. Like you have the whole Digimon Emperor thing, which I think, yes, that was a smart route to go. Have a human big bad villain. He's a teenage kid that's the same age as the others, and he's enslaving Digimon. And so you don't know why he's doing it, and he's really evil. And then you find out the reason why he did it. And then you kind of like, oh, he didn't know, you know what I'm saying? And then you get the second story arc where he has to redeem himself. But then all of a sudden there are these two new bad guys, but they're not really the big bad villain. They're more like hench people, goons and everything. So we spend the whole time with them. And then it's like you got the whole Dark War Greymon story arc and everything. And it's just kind of like, who asked for this crap? But then you get to the third story arc, and then after you do the world tour thing, then all of a sudden it goes back to like a human villain, kinda. And you find out that he's tied to the original villain of like the first story arc with the Emperor dude, and how all this came to be. And so all of a sudden he's like, doing the same thing with these kids, but then it hits you with a big twist. His main motivation isn't to conquer any world, and then all of a sudden it's a bigger twist on the other twist, and it's just kind of like, that's not flowing. Like, it's not flowing. It's just way too many story arcs and stuff jammed into one big cohesive story arc. Then there is the confusion with the parents at first. And not only that, but people around the world. You would assume that after 3 years, people would know what Digimon are in the digital world. Because, like, the Digimon came to the human world and everybody saw the big battles and everything. People saw it on the internet, on the news. Then there was the whole Dioboromon, which Saban, what he did was he combined the continuity of the 3 animated shorts that got turned into Digimon the movie and combined them into the show to keep his canon, the English dub canon, which can get a little confusing at times. And so tons of people have seen Digimon, seen them fight. The government is trying to figure out what this is. So you assume everybody knows what it is. But then all of a sudden, the new kids and the older kids are all hiding their Digimon from their parents, and every time they go to the digital world, they lie as to why they're going. And at first, it was the most confusing thing ever. It's like, why? Why are they like, forgetting what Digimon are? Did their memories get erased or something? Then it's not explained until, well, actually, it's not even really explained. When you get to the third story arc towards the very end, then all of a sudden, all the parents from season 1 remember what Digimon are and ask their kids, hey, where your Digimon at, and blah 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 and stuff like that. And then all the parents from season 1 and season 2 convene together, and then you find out why the kids kept hiding their Digimon. It's because when the parents started seeing the Digimon again, they got terrified and scared and worried their kids might die or have to go to the digital world and fight again. So they hid that from their parents to save them the trauma. Okay, that makes sense. But it's like, for pretty much 40 episodes or 45, you're just wondering why don't they know about Digimon and stuff. But that's more of a writer's thing, you know what I'm saying? It's the writers who chose to do that. And they didn't have to do that. The parents should be like, all right, look, we realized what happened 3 years ago. Only y'all could stop it. Y'all know more about this than us. And just go and kill as many Digimon monsters as you want to. Which brings me up to my next point. Killing Digimon does not really happen this season. One of the things that was more baffling than anything else is like, because the first arc is a bunch of like enslaved Digimon. So the Digimon will fight them and free them and everything because they was innocent. There was no need to kill them and everything because they weren't really attacking them. They was brainwashed into attacking them. Then you get to the second story arc, and it has to do with that water reservoir that's about to flood on that village with little Digimon there. And as they're trying to stop the Digimon who's too tough, Davis realizes that, hey, we might have to go the extra mile and get rid of this dude. Only to have Yoli and Cody be all like, you can't kill a Digimon. They're living creatures and everything. And he's all like, well, we have no choice and everything. This whole village full of tiny Digimon are about to, like, become the new Titanic and everything and drown and stuff. And so they go back and forth with that. So then it's kind of like, it pops in your head as a viewer, oh, wait a minute. Throughout the entire first story arc, no Digimon ever killed another Digimon except for Angemon, who killed that one Digimon when she was in the dark ocean dimension with Kari and everything. But none of the other kids saw that. And so, like, it's kind of like, I can't believe I didn't realize no Digimon is killing another Digimon until now. With the whole Thundermon thing, because when Stingmon killed Thundermon, Cody was like beside himself, couldn't believe what happened and stuff. And after knowing Ken had enslaved, Digimon, it was shocking to see him kill another, but it turned out to be a control spire Digimon. Basically, it's a Digimon that's not really a Digimon, it's just a black control spiral, and that's got transformed into a Digimon. But then it was kind of baffling that, at first, why does Yoli and Cody have such a problem with this? Now, us, the viewers, we know this is common knowledge that Digimon kill other Digimon, but they don't really die. They just get repurposed and turned back into eggs and are reborn. Unless they die in the real world, then they die permanently. And they just have, their data spirit going all around. But so we, the audience, we knew that, but it was just kind of perplexed as to how did they not know that, especially when they watched the news as little kids. Well, of course they're little kids, so they forgot. But it was just kind of odd. But what was even odder was TK and Kari just standing in the background being absolutely silent. They should have spoke up and said something. They should have been like, yeah, we killed Digimon all the time back in the day. Ain't no big whoop because they just get reborn and everything. But they stayed silent. And that's the problem with the animation team overseas. Why didn't the creators have TK and Kari say something about that? They don't mention crap like that until the end of the third story arc and stuff. When Ty is all like, look, you're going to have to let them know this is how we used to do things and blah, 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 and stuff like that. And they're upset. Kari was upset. Yeah, I don't want to have to tell them that. And it's kind of like, where have you been this entire time? You know what I'm saying? I mean, did they not see a giant sword go through the head of like Dioboromon? Everybody saw that crap on the internet. And so like it was just weird having those two not be okay with killing Digimon. And the reason for that is, of course, in season one, it was a whole different situation. Those kids were out in the wild with a bunch of wild Digimon, and their Digimon are, they do what they do best. They have to survive and everything. And so now it's a little bit differently because now in season two, when the kids travel to the Digi world, they're either there to free like enslaved Digimon, rebuild the digital world, like actually rebuild it and everything, like houses and streets and bridges, which how do these little kids know how to do that construction? And so when else they go there for picnics and to hang out and just to have fun on vacation and stuff. It's not like in season one. So they've never been in that situation where they had to take or they have their Digimon like take a life. And that's the biggest problem with me. Not so much that they don't do it and don't want to. This should have been open for a bigger debate. They should have had episode after episode after episode talking about this debate of, hey, look, it was fun doing what we did before, but we don't want to do this no more because like we don't want to have to take a life and everything. We just don't want to have to do that. And for TK and Kari to speak their behinds up. This soul would have got addressed in season one. Because remember when Mimi came back to the digital world, she didn't want to fight no more because all her friends ended up, her Digimon friends that she met ended up dying and stuff. So she literally left with Joel and everything. And Matt was being Matt and he left. Where was this strong writing in season two? Season two felt more like marketing and like merch sales because of the success of season one. And the creators probably didn't realize season one would blow up to the big international phenomenon that it did, to where the people creating it was kind of like, hey, look, we got to sell as much merch as possible. We got this is why I believe the Digivices got redesigned. This is why I believe the kids' clothes change now when they go to the digital world. This is why I believe they don't go around killing Digimon. It would be too barbaric. Sorry about that, my camera died. But yeah, I believe that's why, they didn't go around killing Digimon because it's too barbaric and other countries don't like that and stuff. So I believe they toned it down so that other countries would be a little bit more okay with it and stuff. And also themselves. I remember Super Sentai. I don't remember what the Japanese version is called, but in America it's Power Rangers SPD. And no, not them. Dino Thunder, that's it. Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Apparently the White Ranger in the Japanese version was too vicious and too mean, that way it almost ruined the franchise and they was going to cancel the entire thing. Thankfully they didn't. So I truly believe it was just nothing but merch. Because the new Digivices look way cooler. There's a D terminal. There are Digi-Eggs and everything. The Digi-Eggs go into the digital terminal, the D terminal. And then somehow it shoots out the Digivice on screen. And there's better effects. They're more colorful. In the American version, there are way cooler songs. Every time they go to the digital world, they say, let's go, the music and everything. And then, of course, to get to the digital world, now there's a digital gate that appears on a computer screen. And that's really flashy and mechanical looking, and you have to use your Digivice just to get there, or a 3D, I should say, because a regular Digivice won't. And there are new Digimon. There's armor Digivolving. All this stuff was for merch and everything. And I'm not surprised because Over in America, around the same time, a few years later in 2003, we had the best Ninja Turtle series of all time, the 2003 version on Fox Box. I grew up with the 80s one, but even I can admit the 2003 was a heck of a lot better. But it was way too violent. It stuck to the cartoon. Not cartoon, but the comic. So, in its fifth season, they decided to send the Turtles off into the future and cancel the original fifth season, which would later be called like the Lost season or Terminal season or something like that. And when they did the fast forward thing, they had a slight redesign where they weren't as, they're still big and bulky, but it's more linear, I guess you could say. It's more bright, it's more colorful. They're wearing these futuristic like gear, clothes, and weapons and stuff, and everything's set into the future. Then when they came back to the present day, to back to the sewer, they redesigned everything again, completely changing the look to make them look more like the 1980 Turtles and stuff. And that video game that had came out and that CGI movie and stuff. And it was all because of one, merch sales, and two, parents' complaints and stuff. So I hate when they do this crap. Then when I watched Digimon the movie and everything, and knowing who Davis and them are now, and you know, the golden Digi-Egg and everything, all I could ask myself, and like, you know, the television series was, where's Willis? In the movie, I asked, where is Ken? Because the movie takes place after the first arc, when the Emperor is defeated. And so, like, you know, I'm just asking myself straight up, where's Willis at? Where's Terriomon at? Like, why aren't they here and everything? I could not understand it because, you know, the English dub was completely different in the movie than it was in Hurricane Touchdown. And so they even mentioned Willis' name and everything. And so I was like really disappointed and we didn't get to see him because if anybody should have joined that team, it should have been him. But then we get all these other Digimon for like the world tour thing. And it's a little bit cool, but it's a little bit frustrating at the same time because you legit ask yourself, where the heck were these kids at the entire time? The world tour. Now, the world tour was just fascinating. It was the end of the control spirals and everything. They started popping up in the real world, and because of that, they would pop up near like a digital gate, and Digimon would get out. So the Digi-Destined from Japan had to go around the world and like, you know, stop these Digimon and round them back up and place them back in to the digital gate. And only a 3D can open up a digital gate, which gets a little confusing at times. I'll get into that a little bit more. And so it was really cool to see all these kids from around the world, or most of them around the world. In the English dub, they literally say there are Digimon in Africa and South America, yet they never go there. And I've been wondering what is the deal with them and black people in Digimon, because Mimi is in America and every time we see an American, they're white. And so they even mention Africa, but nobody never goes there. But then luckily there was one black kid in season 2, which is a funny Easter egg. And nobody has brought this up yet. Phil lives in New York. He is a Digi-Destined. And he's the only black person to ever show up in Digimon, but have you noticed he dresses kind of familiar and everything? He looks like Ash from Pokemon, like the hat, the leather on the hat. Well, at least that's how I remember him looking. And like the jacket type thing, he looks like Ash to me and everything. And this is, to me, is like a neat little Easter egg. But nobody ever mentions anything about him, not even online. I'm so shocked and surprised. Because this isn't the only little Easter egg of Pokemon. In the second story arc, there's Arokinimon and Mummymon, and in the second arc, they just drive around the digital world in a car, or they drive around in the real world in a car. And I'm not familiar with Pokemon. All I know is Pikachu and Ash, but I do remember seeing these two characters and this cat drive around, like, in pictures and stuff. And I'm just like, if that's not a direct, like, tongue-in-cheek type Easter egg, I don't know what is. And so basically, Imperial Dramon flies the kids all around Japan to take care of the Digimon, and then they have to go around the world where they separate. Now, I like the fact that each Japanese Digidestin has to be paired off with one of the O2 kids, and TK and Kari are part of the O2 kids now, because only a 3D Digivice can open up the gate. And I like the pairing and everything, You get to see people paired up that you normally don't. It's Kari and Izzy of all people. It's Davis and Matt. And remember one of the times Matt and Davis almost got into a fist fight? It's TK and Ty. And remember in 01, TK wanted him to be his older brother and stuff, and not Matt. Now, the whole Joe and Cody, that's typical. They always pair together. And also Sora and, like, Sora and Yoli, they're always paired together. Oh, I take this back. It wasn't Matt and Davis. It was Matt and Ken. And then it was Davis and Mimi of all people. And so I just like that pairing, you know what I'm saying? And I like meeting the other kids, finding out who they were. Now, there were tons of kids, but not all of them got time to shine. Only a few of them had like story arcs, and the rest was shown in the background towards the end as they had to gather the rest of the Digimon. So they didn't really get nothing to say or do. And I'm surprised they didn't really go in other countries that much that had darker color skinned people. Like, there's a girl from India, but I don't think she ever speaks. And not only that, but she really doesn't do much. Same with Phil, he doesn't do much either. Now, Rosa from Mexico, she does a lot. But here's the thing that's always been confusing to me. I never really thought about this until now. How does everybody speak the same language? Because they're from different countries. And in the movie, that's never explained either. How Willis is able to speak Japanese and how, like, the Digidestin are able to speak, like, American or whatever. It's just, you just flow with it, right? But in the actual Japanese dub, they do explain this and stuff. Same with the world tour, and and everybody speaks different languages, so nobody knows what nobody is saying. But in the American version, this would have been fine and go with the flow of, okay, somehow they just all able to speak the same language, until you get some of them that can't, like, speak English or whatever, or their language, like the Russian kids. It's like they had no idea what they were saying. And then it's the Indian and the Chinese people. So Kari and, like, Izzy are in China, and they meet the Poi brothers and stuff. And they each got Digimon, but somehow they're all able to understand what they're saying. Whereas in the Japanese dub, they do not, because not all Asian languages are the same. And so there's a disturbance on the border of India and China. And so they have to go there, and the Chinese government is ready to attack. Angemon all like, maybe we should talk to them, but then they'll probably just shoot us because of the Digimon and everything. And so one of the Chinese Digimon, he writes, we're friend and not foe, or something like that. And we come in peace. And so the Chinese government is able to understand him and everything, because, he's Chinese and stuff. But it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like, why didn't one of the Poi brothers go up there to one of the soldiers and talk to them and explain, hey, this is what's going on? Because technically they should know what's going on, because Jedi has literally said the human world has been trying to get to the digital world ever since what happened 3 years ago and stuff. And so basically, as they're ripping and running around and they get all the Digimon back and everything. One thing that's never makes no sense is how the heck did they get around so fast? I get it if they're on Imperialmon, but how the heck did Matt and Ken get from Miami, Florida, all the way to Mexico? One part of Mexico, then another part of Mexico that's 400 miles apart in the same night. And this all happened literally in one night because it was Christmas Eve and everything. And I wish the world tour would have been longer. That should have been a story arc all on its own, and I would have appreciated it a whole lot more because it was just fun getting to see Digi-Destined from other parts of the world. But at that same time, you ask the question, where the heck was they? The entire time in '01. They weren't created yet. But then when you get to the finale of this show, you want to see that big battle with all the Digimon and all the Digi-Destined, and you don't get that. It should have been a big global thing instead of them just holding their Digivices up in the air and letting the light shine through the darkness and stuff, and letting their combined power go to their Digimon and then into the newer Digimon and stuff. Now, one main problem I do have with this season and every other season that follows is how Digi-Destins are chosen. It just seems to be the most random thing now, as opposed to that of season 1. In season 1, after all these prophecies and all these evil Digimon, they needed humans to fight off the evil and stuff. So one time a bunch of kids, 8 kids, happened to see a Digimon. So they realized, hey, it must be something special about these kids. Or since they already saw Digimon, let's just scan them and make them the new Digi-Destined. After scanning them, they realized they possess really good traits that make them really good, wholesome people who can help protect 2 worlds and everything. So they was chosen to be the Digi-Destins. And they was giving Digivices and tags and crests and modified Digimon to, like, you know, adhere to their devices. But not only that, but after scanning these humans, they put that data in these modified Digimon to help them bond better with their human counterparts and stuff. It was a very logical thing thought out. Then when all the animated shorts came out, like and then the Digimon movie, and then of course 02, then all of a sudden it just seems to be, okay, if you're a kid and you see a Digimon, you're automatically a Digi-Destined, and at some point you will magically get a Digivice and everything, and you will magically get a Digimon. It's just random. Like, there's no thought process to it. Because, like, there's no real good reason why these 3 new kids or Ken should really be a Digi-Destined. Davis is too much of a hothead. Cody was originally too shy and timid. Yoli is just too much of, like, you know, a sporadic type person. And Ken was, I don't know, he was just really just like a kid. But there was really no thought process, and there's no thought process as to how they got their Digimon. They just said, oh, we just selected older Digimon from like ancient Digimon and gave them to them. But if they ancient, then how are they ancient when a Digimon dies, they get reborn? And how did Ken exactly get, well, he got Wormmon because that was technically in '01. But then, you know, it's like a bunch of other kids all around the world now have Digivices and Digimon, and it's just the most random thing. It's no longer scanning these humans to see if they possess certain traits that will make them heroes, and then putting that in their Digimon and stuff. And then that's how every other season happens to be. In '03, it's just a bunch of random kids. And then in '04, it's really a bunch of like random kids. They literally just text message a bunch of kids and told them to get on the train. And if they was lucky enough to be like the Digi-Destined, then so be it. To me, this is the most laziest explanation like ever. Because if this is truly the logic that they now do in season 2, then how come in the second story arc of '01, all those kids that got kidnapped along with their parents in the city, why didn't they turn into Digi-Destined? Why didn't they go to the digital world too to help defeat the evil? Why weren't there other Digi-Destined living in Japan when they did the world tour? See, this is such a huge continuity error that pisses me off. Another big question is Gennai. Like, this dude don't make no sense. When we saw him in '01, he was an old man who was goofy. But then when we saw a flashback, he was younger, looking like a Star Wars Jedi person. And then Paimon put a black ball in his back. That ball, some fans have theorized it will cause him to age so fast. But as soon as Azulammon is free, all of a sudden, I can't almost say Gennai is young again. His personality is now different. And he now informs all the Digi-Destined that, the spirals are all around the world and there's Digimon, you have to go and stop them. And I'm going to give you the power of Azulammon so that y'all can Digivolve to the next level and everything. The problem with this that's even more confusing is all the other counterparts that look like him. You see all these men that look exactly like him but with different voices and like the same look. And one of them literally said me and Gennai are like one and the same, or used to be one and the same, and I'm like his counterpart or something like that. And it's like, what does that mean? Well, years later, it's explained that they're clones and everything. But how and why did he clone himself? That don't make no sense. But it is what it is. And then in Try, we find out that there's an evil version of one of the clones. Now, before I go any further, I want to mention Jeff Nimoy. He is related to Leonard Nimoy of Star Trek, who played Spock. Supposedly they're like cousins or something, and he was like once or twice removed. Jeff was, or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever. And he is the voice of Tentamon. And he also wrote nearly every episode of season 1 and season 2, but he quit after the world tour. Now, word has it that Saban had him add like more humor and jokes and stuff like that for a lighter tone, similar to that of season 1. Because even though, yes, it is comedic in Japan, it's not as comedic as it is in America. A lot of the jokes don't make any kind of sense whatsoever, and I've never liked the humor in Digimon. The humor in Digimon always got on my nerves. And so, like, apparently, they had to redub certain things, like in the form of change scenarios, add different dialogue, make it, change it from like the original draft, which made it a bit like hectic around the work schedule and stuff. He said, in a message that like he left the show because he didn't like working in the writers room and all this other stuff and blah 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 and stuff like that. And like seriously, like after he left after the world tour, him and somebody else left, I forgot who, but like because there used to be 3 people writing the episode. After that, it only became like 1 person writing the episode. And so, like, it makes you wonder, like, seriously, why did Saban wanted this to be so silly and goofy? I get it's for kids, but Digimon is supposed to be on a mature kind of level. It's kids saving the world, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of that English dub is some of the most confusing stuff, like, ever. And I mean, ever. Like, their whole Digivices and why they change clothes. Now, when their Digivices change, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. You know, a new season, a new update, that's awesome. But the older kids didn't, Digivices didn't change, except for Kari and TJ. Izzy theorized that Ken's subconscious wish for his clothes to change when he entered the digital world. See, when Ken came to the digital world, he had a regular Digivice. He came with Rio or Ryo, however you want to say it, the dude who was featured in season 3. And so he dipped his Digivice in the dark ocean and it changed to 3D and turned black and gray because it was poisoned by the darkness. And so after that, his clothes would change when he got older and come to the digital world. And he kind of looked a little bit like his brother who had passed away. And so Izzy said that, you know, y'all subconscious must have been scanned in the digital world and y'all must have wished for these clothes, not really realizing that. So every time the new kids would go to the digital world, they will always wear these kind of goofy looking outfits and stuff. Yoli looked like a fighter pilot and everything from back in the day. And so David just looked like some kind of weird rock star. But TK and Kari clothes never changed until they started changing clothes in the real world halfway through the series. And then when they would enter the digital world, they would go back to wearing their original clothes from like the pilot episode in the first arc. But for whatever reason, these same rules do not apply to the older Digi-Destined. And they also don't apply to the Digi-Destined of like around the other world, mainly the ones who have an older form of a Digivice. And so this is like a new little trait just for like the new kids, a new little gimmick, if you will, because people love gimmicks. And so this is a new gimmick. Also getting into the digital world, you need a 3D digital vice. There's like this weird software that appears on the computer that can open the digital gate and you can use a 3D to open it up. And normally it's Yuli who normally says that, but anybody but this device can do it. However, they contradict their own rules because in the pilot episode, Ty is able to enter there without a 3D. He heard Angemon cry out his name and somehow he just ended up there. And Mimi is similar. The second time we see Mimi and everything, like, maybe even the first, it's the second time I think we see Mimi, maybe the first also, but there was a point in time when Mimi comes back with a completely different hairstyle and she's able to enter the digital world without a 3D. And it's like, how? You literally stated the rules you have to have a 3D. Then, all of a sudden, in the third story arc, digital gates are popping up everywhere and people can just go in and out as they want to without a 3D. What was the point in creating this rule if you were just gonna break it in the weirdest kind of ways? But anyways, they're new Digivices. They stand for 3D because they do 3 things that start with the word D. One is detect, and I forget the other ones. But the old Digivices can do that too. Only difference is they look different and they can open up a digital gate. Other than that, they don't do nothing fancy. But like, you know, they can also project out the Digi-Eggs and everything. And so Izzy was all like, you know, maybe they're subconscious, TK and Kari and the other ones, you know, to combat the dark Digivice Kens, their subconscious had to create Digivices that was similar to it. But then when you see the brand new kids at the end of the story arc who was kidnapped, they get brand new Digivices just like 3Ds, but their subconscious didn't want to counteract the dark Digivice. So that was kind of odd and weird. But then Azulmon explained a little bit more. Because the dark Digivice was in the dark ocean and it was so powerful and everything, the new Digi-Destins needed new upgraded Digivices to counter it. So very similar to what Izzy said. And so, but why didn't everybody else's Digivice change? If the Digimon Emperor and the Dark Digivice is so powerful and everything, why didn't everybody else's Digivice change? Because Davis and all the other ones literally got theirs without even knowing what a digital world and stuff was. And then they still don't explain why their clothes change and everything. So apparently it's not their subconscious that like brought about this new power. It was the digital world and the weird spiritual celestial whatever that thing was that possessed Kari in season 1, like, created these new digivices and stuff. They needed power that was more powerful than crest and tags and this and that, which, it's a gimmick and everything. So digital eggs in the new armor digivolving. I love that to death. I love it. I love it. I love it. Everybody's digital egg and digital transformation in their new look looks awesome except for one person. Samurymon. That dude just looks stupid. But like, I love the whole armor digivolving. Yes, if you're gonna have a season 2, if you gotta up the ante, if you gotta change things to make it fresh, bring on a new Digivolution and everything. And so like armor digivolving is very awesome. Basically it's an egg that's armor and you digivolve and the armor goes around your body. This was created to counteract digivolving through like lands that have a control spiral because it prevents them from digivolving along with the dark digivice. So this is able to counteract that. And one thing that I'm just gonna call them celestial Digimon, whatever. No, I guess not. I'm the god-like Digimon. Why not? Because even the Zulamon was originally a partner to somebody else. It was later shown. But anyway, they had to call upon 3 ancient Digimon for some bizarre reason. I don't know why. I don't know why the old 2 kids, the 3 kids were giving ancient Digimon. Like, that don't make no sense. And if they're ancient Digimon and Digimon never die, they just get reborn, how are these ancient and extinct? I don't get that. Like, this is where I'm saying that everything's feel more magical this season than the first season. In the first season, a Digimon was partnered with a human because they scanned that human and created the Digimon eggs to correlate with that human. Now it's just all magi whatever stuff, But these same ancient Digimon, also Kari and TK's Digimon are now able to armor Digivolve as well because they wanted to tie this back to 01. So now, like, these new Digimon are able to go to the champion level, which is also really cool. But then they have to go to their ultimate level, and the only way to go to ultimate is you have to have a tag and a crest, which they no longer have, or you have to wait years and years and years for your evolution line to take process. And so like they do DNA digivolving. Now DNA digivolving has technically been around since 01. And D terminals are just like a giant Palm Pilot type tablet type thing that holds the Digi-Egg. They're human man-made, and when they went to the digital world, it scanned it and gave it to all the digital Digi-Destined to like hold their eggs. It's a way for them to hold their eggs and email each other. And they say the word email like a lot. This was during the time of like, the emails becoming a whole lot bigger. I remember when I went to college in 2001, I sent off my first email. I didn't know how. I had to have somebody in the computer lab show me. So it was around that time, it was like booming, you know what I'm saying? One thing I do want to point out, the whole tags and crest from season 1. I'm confused. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. So at the end of season one with Apocalypse, he destroyed all the physical tags and crest. But then the kids realized that the power has been absorbed into their hearts, and that's when they really keep it. So yes, the tags and crest, or the crest I should say, they do have immense power. They have unique traits that the kids possess: courage, knowledge, reliability, love, friendship, stuff like that, hope and light, sincerity, stuff like that. So they found the traits that the kids it correlates with, right? Now the power was never really in them to begin with. It's just the power got infused in their bodies and their hearts. And that's how they was able to let their Digimon digivolve at the end of season one. So they're all destroyed, right? And in the movie, our war games, somehow two of the Digimon are able to go to the ultimate level somehow. It's never really explained how, but I've already said this before. Anime movies that are based on shows never really share the same continuity. And so, and now in season two, for some reason, the kids are not able to allow their Digimon to digivolve into the ultimate level. But why exactly? If the power is still within their hearts, technically they should be able to do it, right? But for whatever reason, no. It's the control spirals that prevent them from doing that. But what don't make no sense is like the power is within them. So when the spiral is gone, why still can't they do it? Then we see a weird flashback moment, which I assumed originally was in the movie. And I'm all like, where is this at? So I used to always scour the internet for like a missing like anime movie I might have missed or something like that. But nah, this was just created for season two. And Gennai had the kids come back like a year later after they left, and they're just slightly older, but Ty's the only one wearing the same exact clothes. And they got to see their Digimon for one last time, and he needed them to give up their crest to protect the digital world and kind of put like a barrier around it to prevent the evil from like escaping and stuff like that, right? So they say it broke their hearts because their Digimon would no longer be able to digivolve to the next level. But they did it anyway, and we saw these crests come up from them and go around the world. How did they get them again? Did Jedi just happen to make more for them, or like what? So this is the biggest continuity era like I've ever seen before. Now Ken is the only one giving a crest. He was around since '01, but they never knew that. And he never uses the crest to have Wormmon like turn into like an ultimate Digimon. I don't know why they did that. Instead, it like powers his base and it turns into like the Digi-Egg of miracles and stuff, which his crest is that of a miracle, which that don't really make no sense. But then again, light doesn't really make no sense, but it makes a little bit more sense. But I don't know. But yeah, I really wish they could have done something with like his crest. And not only that, but why weren't the other kids giving crest as well? And that's the problem I have with the other Digimon and Digidestins from around the world. It follows the O2 logic of magic, 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 magic instead of data and everything and programs. The '01 cast, their Digimons were literally programmed to like their partner, have tags and crests, and go to the next level. Now, for a specific reason, because it was prophesized with all this evil stuff. But now we know there are hundreds of kids, or like dozens and dozens around the world, who were around since the '01 days, but never had tags and crests, never went past the champion level, and it's just never entered the digital world, like Michael and stuff. Like, that just drives me nuts. And I will never forgive the writers for giving Ken a Digivice and Crest during the second or third story arc of 01. Because technically, if Ken saw a Digimon and he became a Digi-Destined around the time the 01 kids went back to the digital world, then technically he is a Digi-Destined. And there's so many continuity errors for this. First of all, this would technically make him the 9th child, but there is no 9th child. It was always prophesized for 8. This is why Gennai and his team made 8 Digivices, 8 Digimon, 8 tags, and 8 crests and everything. There was never a 9th child, but now all of a sudden, for whatever reason, which is now Digimon is so magical now, it gave him a Digivice and gave him a crest, but where is his tag? And even when Gennai met all them, he's never said, oh yeah, you know, I made your crest and everything. Like, none of this crap make any sense, and it pisses me off and everything. Because why didn't he go to the digital world and help fight alongside, like, the evil and stuff like that? Why was he in the desert and get stuck in the dark ocean and stuff? And not only that, but technically, when Ken did show up in the digital world, technically it should have been part of Spiral Mountain and stuff. So, and that was never even mentioned. And plus that kid, Rio, that he's with. This is such a huge continuity error that pisses me off and everything. It is literally just something that got inserted in between canon to try to make sense for this show. But there are more questions than there is an actual explanation and stuff. And in the same season, the kids literally said, you know, they got rid of their crest to kind of like place a force field over the digital world. Why wasn't Ken used as well? If Gennai now knows who this dude is, why wasn't his crest used and stuff? And it's within the same season that they broke the continuity because the kids already got rid of their physical crest and everything. I swear to God, it's really like, honest to God, like season 1 will always stand out for me for being the best because they actually had a plan in mind when creating that season. It's like every other season that followed, there was no specific plan. It was just, okay, we have to be different from the original and we have to make it flashy to sell merch. Now, something completely added to this season that was only done once in the final battle of 01 is that the Digi-Destined tend to ride their Digimon in battle. Not ride from like one destination to another, but while the Digimon are actually fighting. This was very shocking, but kind of cool to see at the same time, because most of the Digimon this season are kind of like, you know, horse-like in the way that you can ride something, or like a bike or something like that. And it's a nice visual, but it's really stupid when you think about it in a logical kind of way. If the Digimon are like fighting other Digimon that are very powerful and everything, you most likely are gonna get hit or will die, which is the case that happened a few times. Like, I forget who it was. It might have been Kari. She was on Nefertimon, and next thing you know, they got blasted with like a lot of lightning and everything, and both of them went down hard on the ground. And it's kind of like, how did they not die like the human, you know what I'm saying? And there was another time that happened, and then there was like during the world tour when Sora was riding Garudamon, and Garudamon did her attack, which her whole body engulfed in flames. And so how did Sora not die? Like, I get the appeal of it. You want to ride your Digimon, but you gotta think about it in a smart way. Like, that's really dangerous and stuff. So just like I said before, with the Digi-Destin going to and from the digital world to the real world and everything, and their Digimon accompanying them, one new rule is really interesting and odd. Now, no matter what form the Digimon are in when they're in a digital world, as soon as they're back in the real world, they automatically go back to their rookie form. Well, except for Gatomon, she's still champion. I hate that they treat her like a rookie because she's short like a rookie, but she's no rookie. She's a champion, but she's not as strong as a champion. I don't get why they do that. Thank God they corrected that in Digimon Try. But it's never explained why exactly they devolve back into their rookie state. And so, like, yeah, in the original series, when the Digimon were in the real world, well, as you know, the ones partnered to a kid, they were always in their rookie form because it was easier to hide them, or they would be in their in training form. And so, like, so then it makes you stop and think, well, okay, have the rules changed to where they can't digivolve in the real world? But then during the Wizardmon Ghost episode, we see they can transform into like, or at least digivolve and stuff like that. Because they was in their in training form and then they like digivolved into like their rookie stage and stuff like that. But they didn't really go beyond that. And so, like, it's odd because in the real world and later on in the third arc, one of them digivolved in the real world. And I can't remember if it was Yoli or Cody that said, you digivolved and everything in the real world. And it's like, dude, don't you remember that a couple of arcs ago? This is what I'm saying when the, like, English dub completely forget it set up something a couple of episodes ago. But then when they're doing the world tour and when they're in Japan, they're able to digivolve into other like levels, like champion, ultimate, mega, and then the rules for some reason just no longer apply. I don't know what was with the writers and the creators in the Japanese dub that was like creating this show. It's like their rules are not consistent. My bad. They don't be in their rookie form. They're in their in training form when they come back to the human world. My bad. But it's Gatomon that stays in her champion mode and it's Patamon that stays in his rookie mode. Now, one thing I've noticed about like this version of Digimon was that kids are constantly getting slapped in the face left and right, so much more than that of season 1. Davis gets slapped, Yoli gets slapped, Ken gets slapped and punched. And it's just like you're constantly seeing them getting slapped in the face. And so they don't even really try to cover it up in like the English dub, unless it's the females getting slapped. And not only that, but the hitchhiking thing is still in full effect. So whenever somebody hitchhikes, like one of the kids are hitchhiking, they always say, oh, it's their relative they just so happen to find and everything to give them a ride. This has been happening since '01, the movie, you name it. And so Davis and grandparents are not really his grandparents. Now this confused me when we saw Joel, no, not Joel, but Jim, Sora's dad, and TK and Matt's grandfather. When they all hitchhiked with them, I assumed they were just regular strangers, but no, they're actually related to them. And Jim looks different for some reason. I hate everybody's DNA Digivolve look. I don't like it whatsoever. Except for Pyudramon. No, Imperial. No, yeah, Pyudramon. That's the only good looking one I see. Everybody else, especially Sophie Mon, look horrible and stuff. Basically, it's where two Digimon combine. And so that was first seen in '01 with Demi Devimon and Myotismon or Venomyotismon. They combined and mutated and stuff like that. So technically they are mutated Digimon. And then we saw it with Omnimon in like the movie and stuff. And so they have to do it here. That's one thing I've noticed. Traits from an original season will carry over to other seasons. Like a dead brother, DNA digivolving, combining Digimon with the humans. Then the humans are Digimon. They always take traits from previous seasons and put them in the next season. And I like that. And so that's the way they have to go to Ultimate and stuff. And this new DNA form is probably more powerful than like the original. Then there is the Mega, which is more DNA digivolving. And I love Imperialmon look. He's really cool. He's really big. He's super powerful. More powerful than War Greymon and stuff. Which is really embarrassing. Because then, of course, after this, what do? They go back to the well of '01 and show that, hey, the original kids are more powerful than the second kid. That don't make no sense. If you made the '02 kids more powerful than '01, then why in all the movies they go right back to the '01 kids and show how powerful they are? Boy. Now, the digital world itself still looks the same, but not as the same as season 1. We never go to like Spiral Mountain or Spiral Mountain was destroyed, but Infinity Mountain, I mean. We never went to the beach with like the phone booths and nothing like that. We do get to see Primary Village look exactly the same as it did before, but Aletmon is not there. And so like every time they go to the digital world now, it's like a completely different location or just a basic generic location, nothing fancy about it. And or sometimes it will be fancy because it's a brand new location. And I'm kind of surprised. It's almost like it's a brand new show in an alternate reality with a completely different digital world almost. Another thing I like about this season is that there are way more Digimon than season 1. One of the things that always bugged me is that you only got like over 20 Digimon, that's about it. But now you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and completely new designs and everything. And also some of the old familiar designs from the first season. I really love a lot of these newer Digimon and stuff. And Waymon is back somehow. He must have been reborn and is exactly the same as he was before. Now, one thing I am glad they did is that they did show a kind of parallel dimension, something that was mentioned in season 1. And if you put in the wrong cards, you can go to a different dimension. And when Owanawa used the cards, he mixed up the Agumon card and Golemon card and sent them to a different dimension. One where your thoughts become reality. But there's another reality called the Dark Ocean. The Dark Ocean story plot, you can tell they really wanted to do something with this, but for whatever reason, they dropped the ball and everything. The Dark Ocean is part of the Dark World and part of the Darkness. I believe it's part of the Darkness from season 1 at the end of the 3rd story arc, where some of the kids got affected by it. And this season, Kari, for whatever reason, is drawn towards it. And she's able to enter there without her 3D and all her devices and stuff. And so, like, this is where the control spirals come from and everything, or where they was created through all this dark energy. And that's how Ken's Digivice turned into the Dark Digivice when he dipped it in water. And so the water of the ocean. And so like there are evil Digimon that live there and this really evil boss guy. And so when Kari got drawn to it, you know, it fed on her like depression or whatever and just brought her there. And TK was able to enter there through the light. Now somehow Godamon was able to digivolve without any devices. That's never been explained. So then all of a sudden, after these people, Kari freed the Digimon that was there, they wanted to take her to their master and and I think have her defeat him or be his queen or something like that. And we never found out who this dude is. And then they had the silhouette of him come out, and then it ended on a cliffhanger. Now he's later explained on like the Wicca fandom thing. But like the Dark Ocean kept getting mentioned and brought up after this. And so then there's Daymond, who got sent to the Dark Ocean because he was a Digimon that was super powerful. He had a group of Digimon with him, Marina, Devimon, Lady Devilmon, and Skull something Mon. And they was like a team of Digimon that was really powerful, and you assume that they worked for Owanawa, but they didn't. They had their own agenda. They wanted the dark spores that was in Kin for whatever reason. And Daymon was extremely powerful the way he can open up his own digital gate at will and literally told them there's no way to defeat me. I will keep coming back. So they trapped him in the dark ocean and everything. And so this whole dark ocean thing really should have been explained a heck of a lot more instead of being very vague and ending on a cliffhanger and all this other crap. So let's see. I'll start with the 01 kids, the original Digi-Destined. They're a bit older now. They're about 14, maybe 15 and stuff. And they're shown sporadically through the first arc and the third arc. They kind of are a little absent in the second arc. I was devastated when they weren't going to be like the new heroes of this season. They're more like mentors and sidekicks and everything. That just broke my heart. Seeing Ty try to pull out the Digi-Egg and couldn't do it, and then Davis did. That just really bummed me out. His Digimon, of course, is Angemon. The biggest story arc that Ty had was like when Angemon was kidnapped and forced to turn into Skull Greymon, and then dark metal Greymon and stuff like that because Ken was like, enslaving him and like stuff like that. And it took the power of everybody in friendship to like help. And one of the good things I do like about this show this season is a whole lot more action and stuff. Matt is in a band and him and TK have a way better relationship, and he's a heck of a lot nicer, except for when he wanted to fight Davis and stuff. And him and Sora seem to have this whole love triangle thing going on with Ty, which was mentioned in the movie with Ty liking her, but eventually supposedly she liked him back. But David's sister also likes Matt. Izzy is kind of more like their tech genius guy, mentor. He's always there explaining things to them and analyzing stuff. He's mostly there in the real world and never really goes to the digital world, which is really a big bummer. Joe is a heck of a lot more reliable than he ever was before and a whole lot nicer. He no longer whines and complains. He has longer hair now, and he's the oldest kid, so he's getting ready to graduate to go off to college, to medical school and stuff. And he still studies like crazy. Sora's just kind of there, still nice and everything, and, and not really too much going on with her. Like, Sora literally doesn't do nothing in the world tour. It's Yo Lee who takes charge of the entire situation while she's just there. That is sad and pathetic. But it gets worse once you get to Digimon Tri and Last Kizuna. Mimi has changed a lot. Like, every time you see Mimi, something different is about her. And may the voice actress rest in peace. So when we first see Mimi, she's now moved to like America, which was stated in the movie. She has bright pink hair with stars in it and this goofy little outfit. And she actually doesn't wear a hat no more. And the pink hairstyle was just crazy. Then not only that, but her personality was really different when we first saw her. Everybody's personality now is tweaked, but not like super different. But like she doesn't speak in that whisper voice. She's more mature and everything. She's not selfish. But then the second time we see her, her outfit completely changes and her hairstyle. Now she kind of has back her brown hair and a little bit of an afro. Or a Jerry Curl 1 or something like that. But it's a whole lot more puffier. Then the third time we see her, she's wearing new clothes again. And now her hair is long and straight like it used to be back to its original color. So she's had so many, and then once the second time we see her, now all of a sudden her voice is back to being a whisper and stuff. All of their Digimon stay behind to protect a certain area that's been taken over by control spirals and stuff and make sure the Digimon Emperor won't come back. And it's kind of odd because when all the Digidestined and Digimon travel to and from the digital world, it's only the O2 kids who are able to keep their Digimon and the O1s have to stay behind. This is never ever explained. Also, what's confusing is that in the third story arc, or maybe a little bit towards the second, but mostly the third, when the Digimon O1 are in the real world, they're really weak and can't fight. And the explanation is that they've been away from the digital world for too long and they're weak and they have to go back. Therefore, they can't fight and the new ones have to take over. This again makes no sense because we've seen them in the real world for several weeks, if not months, in the second arc of O1. Not to mention, it doesn't make no sense why all the global Digidestins are able to keep their Digimon in the real world and they don't get weak because they don't have to go back to the digital world. So how is it that the O1 kids are unable to keep theirs, but then everybody else is able to keep theirs? But then in the epilogue, everybody is now having a Digimon and stuff in the real world. This makes no sense whatsoever other than to show that the O1 version is weak and the O2 version are more stronger, which I do not like at all. TK is a heck of a lot better than he was in O1. He is older, he doesn't cry, he doesn't whine, he's very forthcoming, he's still nice, but he has a mean streak to him. That mean streak tends to scare Cody to the point where he snitched on him and everything, thinking, oh no, what's this mean side I see of TK? Could he be turning evil? As Cody loves to do. And so, like, I just love how they wrote him in O2. He's passive and doesn't let really what Davis like says to him get to him, because there are more important things than fighting, like, you know, your partner and everything that's in your group. And so, but he will say something smart mouth to Davis to get him back. However, TK will put foot to behind if he's really pissed off. And he legit fought the Digimon Emperor with his fist. Not to mention, when he started to see like Devamon, it really made him snap and want to, like, you know, destroy him because of what he did to Palamon years ago. He has a completely different book bag and he wears a completely different hat this time. His Digivice has turned green for some bizarre reason because Cody's is now yellow, and I hate that. His should be yellow with like his crest and his primary color and this and that. Kari is much more older and like is just more mature. She's still nice and considerate and still says quippy type stuff. And now she carries a camera around her neck as opposed to that of a whistle. TK and Davis are always fighting over her, like a love triangle type thing, because TK likes her, she likes him, but they don't get together in the epilogue. And Davis has a huge crush on her and will not leave her alone. There are still things that are mysterious about her that was a little bit, you know, interesting from like O1 that are still never explained in O2. And so, like, she's just still the same, just like she's a cool kid now, you know. But Gadamon's a more chatty and everything. Now, what's interesting about Gadamon is her tail ring. They're putting emphasis on it, showing that it's magical, something that was never shown before. And not only that, but like they say that her tail ring is responsible for, like, you know, the control spirals and the control collars being created, and like it's also something that helps prevent something else later on was based on her tail ring design. This makes no sense because in the pilot episode we literally see her get attacked by brainwashed Digimon that have a control collar around them. So they was around way before the whole tail ring thing became like a MacGuffin. Now, something that is very odd and inconsistent with Gadamon is like when she's in the digital world near a control spire, she should de-transform back into her rookie stage because a control spire blocks the champion level and every other level up to that. And she is champion, yet she's able to be around a control spire in her champion form. This is never explained. They are so inconsistent when it comes to Gadamon. They keep treating her like she's a rookie when she's actually a champion. Then when there is a champion Digimon, then all of a sudden, like, they're all like, you know, what do we do? It's like a champion, blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, the other Digimon can't transform. Well, Gadamon is a champion, so I don't understand why she doesn't fight another champion and stuff. It's like they make her so weak, but then they try to excuse it by saying without her tail ring, she's not as powerful as she used to be. She wasn't really all that powerful in season 1, except for the first time she fought. And she fought a bunch of champions, and it was funny because she's so tiny, beating up a bunch of bigger champions and stuff. But that's really the only time we ever see her that powerful. Like I said before, thank God, Digimon Tri changed all this and fixed it. Davis is the brand new leader, and he has tie goggles because he broke his in the pilot. I hate Davis so much. He is a very self-centered, annoying, arrogant prick of a character. And I don't know why they made him into the leader. He's supposed to have traits of that of Matt and Ty, but he's just way too jerkish. He's super annoying and he's just irritating, but he's a go-getter and a fighter. It's only at the end of the first season, on the first story arc, that he becomes a heck of a lot better character. Once he becomes besties with Ken, he is completely changed. He is no more arrogant, he's no more a jerk, but he still is loud and annoying. And he is mainly the only person who wants to befriend Ken and all this other stuff. His Digimon is Vmon, a little blue, like lizard dinosaur type Digimon, which, you know, I think he's really cool. I like all his Digivolutions and stuff. And it was cool to see the leader have like the color blue, you know what I'm saying? And that was just a nice shade of blue they have, and blue is my favorite color. Yoli has a red Digivice, and she has Hawkmon. She is the very first Digi-destined to have like a Digimon partner that is a completely different gender. It's never explained why she has a boy Digimon, but you kind of just roll with it. I wish they would have gave her a girl Digimon so we could have like a new girl on the team, a new girl Digimon alongside, like, you know, a girl Digi-destined, because there aren't that many female Digimon out there. They're mostly all male. She is super annoying. All the new kids are. She's very hyperactive and everything. She kind of rushes into situations. She is completely boy crazy. But I get the impression that she has a huge crush on Mimi and everything. This scene right here will always make me think she could be secretly bi. But she falls in love with every guy she sees. She's very impulsive. She has a huge crush on Ken. And it's like she just won't shut up. And I mean, she will not shut up. Hawkmon is her Digimon. He's very polite. I like him. He's cool. And I like all his Digivolutions except for his ultimate one. Sophiemon is just gross. Cody. I hate Cody so much. He is such a goody two-shoes who overthinks everything. But he's very polite and he is the youngest. He's supposed to be traits of Joe and that of Izzy, but he's not very smart. He just always overthinks things. He does have a little bit more character development in the sense that like he starts off very shy and timid, but then as the series progresses, he is forthcoming and will state his opinion and is very stubborn to the point of not trusting Ken and to the point of thinking TK is acting too aggressive and goes and snitches on him to Matt. There's also a story arc where he's afraid of like water. On top of me just not liking him in general, I hate the sound of his voice. But he's actually voiced, may she rest in peace, by the same voice actress as Mimi. I just don't like her boy voice. Like one of the biggest things with Cody is that he almost had a nervous breakdown when he told a lie, all because his grandfather's saying lying is wrong. And I'm just like, Lord have mercy. You know, the fate of the world is at stake. Your friends are about to drown underwater in the digital world. It's okay to tell a little white lie. But the boy nearly had a nervous breakdown. I don't know what they was thinking when they created the O2 cast, which is by far one of the worst Digimon human cast or Digidestined cast I've ever seen. His Digimon is Armadillomon, one of my all-time favorites in designs. I like all of his Digivolutions except for his underwater one and his ultimate one. Apparently when he's Digimon, he's like an insect, but I never really got that. Plus he has wings and never flies. But he has like a country hick type accent that's like really cool and stuff. Ken Ichijoji, the Digimon Emperor. So he started off very evil. He is by far the most complex out of any Digidestined I've ever seen. Similar to that of Godamon, he started off evil, but it wasn't always like that. Before, he was just a regular dopey little kid who had an older brother named Sam. A Digivice came through the computer and Sam thought it was his. And so like Sam ended up dying, and then after that he was really sad, and then he traveled to the digital world with Ryo and everything. The whole Ryo thing has never been explained on screen in O2, and it was never really explained in O3, but apparently it's explained in like a video game and stuff like that. While in the digital world, he went to the dark ocean and dipped his Digivice in, it turned dark, and then all of a sudden a black spore went in the back of his neck. All of a sudden he started turning evil. When we first see him, that's his backstory. So we didn't know none of this until like the second story arc. But when we first meet him in the show, he is evil. He is the Digimon Emperor. He has enslaved hundreds of Digimon, and he makes them fight themselves in arenas. He controls them. He's basically their slave owner and everything. And it's up to the Digidestined to stop him. He's super evil and cruel and nasty and beats up on his Digimon partner, Wormmon, and even has a whip. When he travels back to the human world, he dresses like a normal kid. His hair is no longer spiky. He's supposed to be a genius, smarter than that of Izzy, but Izzy seems smarter than him. Not only that, but like he's really good at soccer, and he can beat Davis in soccer better than Ty. And so he's like a little like superstar in his city. And so he decides to run away from home and go to the digital world because the Digidestineds keep outsmarting him and foiling his plans and everything. He has no remorse for whatever he does, but then he gets to the point where he wants to create his own Digimon, Chimeromon. And in order to do that, he absorbs the data from the bodies of Digimon, chop up their pieces, and combine them like a Frankenstein monster. So it turns out he had like the crest of miracles or something. No, not miracles, kindness. My bad. It's the Digimon egg of miracle, but it's the crest of kindness. My bad. So when I said that before, yeah, it's the kindness thing. So that's what he uses to power like his base and everything. And so after he's defeated, the Digidestin are like, it's over, man. He's like, it's not over. I'll just reboot the system and do it again. And so this confuses a lot of people. Like, what the heck is he talking about? He literally thought he was playing a video game called Digimon. He had no idea the digital world was real and that Digimon were real. He just assumed it was just a video game. Now, there's a character in Marvel Comics who is similar to that. Gwenpool. Gwenpool is an amalgamation of Deadpool and Gwen Stacy. Basically, she travels to like an alternate comic universe where she sees all these cute and cuddly like animals and stuff, and she starts killing them, not knowing that they're real. She just thinks she's in a comic book and everything, but she's not. So after this discovery, he goes like insane and filled with guilt. He takes off his emperor clothes and leaves the digital world, feeling extremely sorry for what he did. Now, I get he thought this was a video game, right? But here's the thing. At this point in time, we had no idea about the Dark Spore. We just thought he was a regular kid and being evil. So if he thought it was a video game, why in the heck would he want to be a slave master owner and create tons of Digimon to conquer the digital world and just like destroy everything and make Digimon fight each other? It's very barbaric, and his little redemption arc didn't really feel redeemed. But then after that, he slips into a coma. He starts to remember things that happened in his past because his memories are blocked and everything. After that, we see him in the digital world wanting to be a loner, destroying Digimon's spiral Digimon, or whatever you call them. And so he later joins the Digi-Destins, but was very reluctant to do it because, you know, he feels so much shame in his heart. And it's with the help of like Davis and Yoli that, you know, he joins the team, even though Cody does not want him to. And so after that, he's just very, very nice. He's back to being polite and all this other stuff, but he's not as smart as he used to be. We later find out that it's because of the Black Spore that he became good at sports and was really smart. After this, the main true baddie uses the spores that's in his neck to infect other kids. You know, still, after like knowing all this, I kind of wish they would have went the route of him not being brainwashed himself, but for him just to be evil and then later came to like a good person. That's how I would have did, but whatever. Wormmon is his extremely cute, adorable, nice Digimon that would do anything for him and took all that abuse when he was a Digimon Emperor and stuff. He later portrayed Ken and like freed some of like the Digimon and stuff like that, or Angemon that is. And because, you know, he just didn't like it. But then he dies very like Patamon style and comes back to life. Awakenimon and Mummymon. So these two were kinda our main villains of the second story arc, but they're more like goons and everything. And we first see Awakenimon use her hair to create control spiral like Digimon. And so like, we don't know why exactly she's doing this because there's no real reason, but she knows Ken somehow and claims she's the one who gave him the control spirals and everything. But it turns out those actually came from like the Dark Ocean. It's later revealed that like, you know, they was actually created by Owanawa and everything. And he used his DNA, converted it into data, and created those two. The way they get destroyed was very, very shocking and bone chilling, especially that of Angemon. Black War Greymon was created by 100 control spirals. And so he is basically just like War Greymon, just black and gray. And he's extremely powerful because he's a mega. And he is more powerful than that of the original War Greymon. And so basically he's under the control of that of Angemon and Mummymon. But then all of a sudden he realizes he doesn't want to take orders from them no more. And then he goes off on his own little quest. They really rushed the whole him gaining a conscience, him wanting to know his origin, him wanting to know how he was created, him having emotions and feelings. We've seen story arcs like this before, especially in Power Rangers. So he's constantly trying to figure out who he is while also destroying stuff. He feels his purpose is destroy, so he's going to destroy. So he starts destroying the Destiny Stones, which is a new MacGuffin for the digital world that was never explained before. And so he's destroying them left and right. And before he gets to the last one, because apparently you destroy like the balance and all this other stuff, Azula'mon shows up. But apparently Azula'mon was released by Kari and TK's Digivice, which I don't understand the dub of this. But he befriends Angemon at one point. But then later, you know, he starts fighting War Greymon and all the Digimon. And it almost seems perilous. But then at some point when he's talking to Owanawa and everything, he's dishing out some good truth to him. And then the thing that's inside Owanawa hits him, and he sacrifices his life to save Cody's grandfather. After that, he uses his essence to seal off the digital gate and heighten view terrace and everything. His story arc was very interesting and very compelling, just very, very rushed. How did he go from being created to all of a sudden, like, how the heck did I come here? What's my purpose in life? Why do I like this little flower on the grass? Like, I wish they would have built up more to that. Obakawa is that of our main villain in the third story arc. And he's the overall main villain really since the beginning of this season. We just never knew it. He's a gray-skinned man with long black hair, wears a trench coat, sounds like MagnaAngemon, and has no eyebrows. And so we don't know what his whole thing is, but he wants the dark spores from that of like Ken. Turns out he wants to infect a bunch of kids, but they're affecting them differently than that of Ken. And he wants to use the manifestation of the spores to travel to the digital world, because that's the place he's been wanting to go ever since the original well, not really the original kids, because the original kids were from many years ago, but the ones from 01. When they went to the digital world, he's been wanting to get there ever since, with that of Cody's father, who was a police officer who was murdered. And so it's just been his dream to go to the digital world and have a Digimon partner. He is obsessed with it. And so and he'll do anything to get there, especially infect a bunch of kids just to get there. Once he is there, he realizes he's not in the digital world. He's in a different reality. And then there is a huge twist that comes with him. As he is dying and everything, he finally gets a Digimon partner when he's in the digital world. But, you know, he could never go there before because he was an adult. So if adults can't go there, how the heck was he able to go there towards the end? But whatever. So then he dies, and he uses his essence to like cover that of like the digital world and restore it and stuff. MagnaAngemon, the main true villain of the series. Now, in my first season review, I mistakenly called Venom MagnaAngemon MagnaAngemon, but MagnaAngemon is still that of a mega, but a bigger level mega than the other one from 01. He's back, and I mean he's back. The original villain from the the old one arc 2 story arc and everything. Like apparently his ghostly digital presence was just floating around the real world. It's revealed in Digimon Tri if a Digimon dies in the real world, that's it. They can never be reborn. But apparently, we see with Wizardmon, their data just floats around the real world. He needed a vessel, so he went inside Owanawa and everything. So if he's able to do that, Wizardmon and Leomon should be able to do it as well. And then they can be reborn. But he was reborn doing like dark magic and stuff. And so he's the one been setting everything in motion. He infected Owanawa after he witnessed the kids going back to the digital world in '01 to Spiral Mountain. He infected him and been living in his body, controlling his thoughts ever since. He needed the dark spores to reconstitute like his body and everything. And the dude is super powerful. Owanawa must have messed up the cards with Angemon and Golemon because he sent them to a different dimension where your thoughts become reality. And he brutally killed Arikennimon and everything. And so the other Digidestined were very scared to fight him because they're like, crap, dude, if we think he might defeat us or our Digimon, it's gonna be reality and everything. They get put in like a void of happiness only to come out of it and realize that they can have all their Digimon Digivolutions all interact at the same time. So they're able to fight him and everything. But he's way too powerful. And I was like, how in the heck are champions and ultimates able to like knock this dude out? But anyways, the blast was so powerful, it knocked him out of that reality and into the digital world. And so it's with the help of all the Digidestined around the world with their Digivices that shine their light into the new Digimon to finally defeat this dude once and for all, because it's weird how he was defeated. It's the new Digidestined. Their depression is what fed him into being more powerful. And once they started realizing that, you know, their life will be okay, even if they're not smart and good at sports and this and that, and they can dream to be whatever they want, it's during that inner monologue that they're able to defeat him and break up his body, and the little piece that's left later, Imperialmon is able to destroy. And so I did not see this coming at all. I'm all like, why does Owanawa sound like, you know, my oldest mom? I'm like, okay, it was the same voice actor. But I was not expecting that dude to be living inside his body. Major twist, very appreciated. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that. Azulamon is a Digimon, but I'm not 100% sure what kind of Digimon he is. He's either some type of celestial godlike Digimon, or he's some type of harmonious one, or he's just a regular one. I think in Digimon Tri, they said he belonged to one of the original Digidestined, which doesn't make no sense because he's way too powerful in a godlike way. He said in a huge exposition dump that the crest of light and hope helped release him from his captivity. But when we saw War Greymon break up the Destiny Stones, then all of a sudden he appeared. So I don't know. But anyways, he's just a really powerful Digimon who's able to give the other Digimon the ability to Digivolve to whatever level they have to go to. He knows Gennai somehow, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. He needs to be explained a heck of a lot better in this season, but he really wasn't. But he has a cool design and stuff. And then there is the epilogue. Finally, they got a happy ending. Unlike that of '01 that got me choked up and everything when they had to say goodbye to the Digimon. And so, but I will say this. Even though this ending was happy, that sad ending, I still think is like the best. It hit me on an emotional level. Here, it's just like, ah, isn't this nice and wrapped up in the same boat? But you can tell they rushed it because all their kids look exactly like them when they was kids. And so we learn some things have now happened. Years have passed by, and every person on the world has a Digimon somehow. Either because they all saw them on television or something, it's never been explained. But everybody has a Digimon. I'm assuming everybody has a Digivice. And now their Digimon partners live in the real world. And so, like, everybody has a different profession now, completely different than what you would think. I forget what Izzy's profession is. You think he would do something with computer? No, he's a lawyer of all things. No, is he? Or is that Cody? I can't remember. I forget what Izzy does, but everybody's different. Like Mimi's a cook and everything. Matt went into outer space. Ken is a private detective and everything. It's just kind of like, now this is what I want to see in Digimon Try. Like this sounds very interesting. But of course they all have kids and they all look like them when they was younger. And they all have the same Digimon as like their parents and stuff. So very, very, very rushed and wrapped in a bow. But we do know for a fact that Ken and Yoli did get married because she had a huge crush on him. Some people have said Matt and Sora are together, but I don't see it in here. And plus, it would have been stated. And so this is technically the end. Until Digimon Try and Last Kizuna and Beginnings came out, which confused the crap out of so many people. Because it's kind of like, well, when the heck did they go through these adventures and everything? Why are their personalities so different? Why do they kind of still look the same as they did in '02? Why is there a new girl all of a sudden if so many Digidestins are around the world? And why are they so focused on this girl? Then Last Kizuna, that just confused the crap out of more people because it's like, okay, they have to permanently say goodbye to their Digimon, and that's it. It's like boom, they're gone. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, there's the epilogue. So people kept asking like the creators, yo, what about the epilogue? And so the creators are kind of like, ah, crap, we gotta do that. And so supposedly the '02 movie, Beginnings, I think it's called, is supposed to explain the epilogue. And I don't know what that movie's about. I haven't seen it. There's only one streaming site that has it. Because it's really getting hard to stream Digimon now. Hulu used to have it, and they're getting rid of season 3 this Saturday. Or actually, by the time I upload this video, it'll already be gone, supposedly. But they'll probably bring it back again. And it's like, you know, there's Crunchyroll, but Crunchyroll doesn't always work for me. Like, for some reason, it had like the Japanese dub, and I don't know what they be saying. So, like, I do think '02 is very, very, very fun. And I know I did a lot of complaining in this review. That's only because '02 don't make no sense. It's literally a hot mess and everything. It's like they came up with a bunch of new rules, changed a bunch of the lore, and it just became very, very, very confusing because I believe they were just trying to sell merch. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.